Hello, welcome to Garden Chronicles. My name is James David, and in today's video, I'd like to talk about this particular type of plant, commonly known as Malabar Catmint. Now, one of the things about this particular plant is that this is commonly available or found in the native tropical regions or subtropical regions around the Southeast Asia, including India and some portion of the area around archipelago regions. And in another contention is that it's also found around Australian region, and it's sort of like another name for it, and the appearance in the context of when it comes to botanical kind of taxonomy, these particular ones has found its ways in these surrounding regions. Now, what I want to talk about here in this particular type of plant is it does brought a lot of contention in the sense of identification, where you will find that many gardeners who might think that this is actually a herb plant or in some usage and in a confusion may equate this as a sage plant. And one of the things that I want to do today here is just to give a little bit of introduction on this particular plant and gives my thoughts and my personal opinion on this particular herb. So do stay tuned and enjoy this particular video. Coming to the introduction of this particular plant, I would like to make some emphasis here on this particular names for this plant. And that's where actually the confusion begins, that this particular one is not a catnip plant or a catmint plant. I believe that this one is not associated with the familiar ones that actually use for cats, or the ones that its appearance to be of that is used for ornamental growth. This particular one is very much native, and it does have more on a wilder version of it. Another characteristics to note is that this botanic name is actually attributed to the location where it was first discovered around the Indian seacoast region. Only later to be found that their native habitat actually covers a lot more region, growing in its span all around the world. However, when it first discovered, this is where it was found, and hence the name was attributed as Malabar Catmint. Now, on this note, one of the things that I want to make mention about it here is the element of this medicinal herb, and it is very much identified as a Ayurvedic medicinal herb. And this particular one I've noticed, and I found that there are so many usage, and it's in a way to say that it is being used for its compound medicinal purpose, as such as antimicrobial purpose, for digestive health, respiratory, anti-inflammatory, skin condition, and even stress and anxiety usage. And one of the things that I find that when it comes to Ayurvedic medicine is that it's been used culturally, ritually, and in a factor of many generations, and it's been studied upon. And in a way, you can say the modern medicine may not recognize it in a way to say certified medicine. So I would rather say do practice caution when it comes to application. When it comes to medicines, always do check with the doctor's advice. However, one of the most important point that I want to mention here is that due to the fact that this is a native plant here around surrounding the Indian region, that this particular plant do have a strong impact in the society that where this particular plant is found, and in the context where this is very much a medicinal plant. Now, apart from medicinal Ayurvedic purpose, I want to bring about another unique factor where this particular plant is actually used for spiritual purposes. And there is a belief in this particular one that where it comes to ritual purposes, a kind of a method that is being used where the name of this plant, which has actually been translated in many regions of India, and this particular name, when mentioned as Pei variety, it's actually a translation of a name that is actually means as a demon or a evil spirit repellent plant. And that is one of the unique factors that I find that intrigued me, and I did a little bit more of a research. And again, it's very much ritual purpose, and I find that the the interesting factor here is similar like sage, where that particular plant is actually burnt and used for cleansing and sort of like preparing a property where you cleanse the environment and sort of like clear all the bad or negative energy and vibes from a living space. Similar like that in the Indian culture, this particular plant is used for that purpose. Again, another factor about method here is that it is also very unique and intriguing, and in a way interesting to note that these green leaves are actually rolled in a kind of a wick manner and used as a wick in a oil lamp. And somehow I find that it is intriguing to note that these leaves do somehow manage to sort of like siphon the burning oil and sort of like able to stand the flame that is being burned at the tip of the leaves. So this is a very unique factor of this particular element of this botanical kind of features. And a belief that is been understood that a caution must be take note that when the fire is lit, it is sort of creates a deterrent for all these evil, unclean, negative spirits from that particular area. And a reverse effect is also true. If the wick is burned out, it will sort of create a reverse effect where it will also attracts and bring forth this supposed demonic or evil spirit back into the living or dwelling space. So in a way, that is interesting ritual characteristic information, and I believe that this has been brought down and believed from many generation, and hence a respected belief system, which I find that it is noteworthy in the Indian culture. I do take note that the element here of burning this as a wick, this particular leaf do emit a kind of a unique fragrance, and hence that fragrance is the uh, emitter where it creates that sort of like a repellent for these unclean spirits. Now, with all things said, I would like to come to a closure of this particular video. And if you like what you have watched so far, I would really like if you can just click like as a reward for now. And I would really appreciate it that this will actually help me in the YouTube algorithm to increase the viewing factor in my video channel. Now, coming back to the factor here on plant care, and this is what are the things that I would like to share about when it comes to this particular plant. And one of the main factor here when it comes to plant care is that I would really consider this as a very hardy perennial plant. In a way to say, it's like literally no care plant. You can actually grow it and you just don't have to bother about it. And one of the things that I would like to say is that in context with it, there were days that I was very busy and I was unable to water the garden. And this, I mind you that there were times that it was a heat wave season, and a lot of plants did perish due to the factor of my negligence. And in comparison to that, the plant such as coleus and some of the mint plants did not survive due to the heat factor. But however, this particular plant, this Malabar Catmint plant, actually pulled through in a way to say that it was able to handle and stand under the sun with many days without care. So I could say that this could be one of the very hardy and easy plant to cultivate if you are a very busy person and do not have time. And I would really recommend that if you can get your hands on this particular plant, do so in growing it, as it actually able to handle a busy lifestyle if you want to have these in your garden. The other factors that I want to mention too here is that unlike mint plants or sort of like herbs plants such as basils and few others that are very easily susceptible for insect attacks such as whiteflies or aphid, I have not found any of these kind of attacks on this particular leaves on them. So in a way to say that these are actually sort of like very resilient to insect problems, and in a way I can say that it does also carry weight, as these are medicinal plants that insects and pests deter and keep themselves away from this particular plant. In a way I can say something similar like marigold. And if you are actually planning to grow something which is without using pesticide, I believe that this particular plant do play a very big role in the kind of an environment factor where you can actually protect the crop from pest problems, and you don't even actually have to use pesticide for it. And this particular plant will sort of like protect the crop, especially if this plant is being grown in between two plants, so such a way that a kind of a method that is being used to use for not using pesticide kind of thing. Number three, I would like to mention here that apart from that, there's another issue here is that I find there's a lot of pollinators that do visit this plant, especially bees, carpenter bees, bumblebee, and even butterflies. So if you're thinking about having an ecology and increasing pollinators population in your garden, I would truly recommend this, because this particular plant is basically a no care plant, and you can actually grow them, and sort of that will actually helps the ecology. And finally, I would like to say that surprisingly, this is a non-invasive plant, and I have not found any of the seeds that actually have sprouted elsewhere, sort of like overwhelm the garden space. Unlike spiderwort, I do find that those seeds seem somehow, even the root ball of spiderwort seems to overwhelm the place. But this particular plant just stay put, and especially if you're propagating it using stem cutting and you just grow them in a potted plant, it will just stay put. It will not overgrow or overwhelm the place, especially if you're worried about invasive plants. Now, coming back to this particular factor of the differences between catnip and catmint in equation with the lavender and sage, and I find that they are actually all come from a same family plant, which is identified as a Lamasia species, and which is actually a lavender family plant. And this is one of the things that is very interesting because of the element where the fragrance is one of the essence that makes the difference. I must say that this particular field has a huge study and a lot of research is actually been done, and even in a regional areas where botanically this particular things which has been studied according to the oils, and so also the elements of the unique factor of all the purposes. In fact, every single division according to their purposes, even folk medicine and cultural factor, together with scientific research that has been done for this Malabar Catmint plant. What I want to say to you is this is very much introduction, and I would like to share my point of view here. And I hope that you find this interesting, and you will do so and find that you might want to follow suit in a pursuit of understanding and figuring it out based on your own research. I hope that this will actually intrigue you to figure out and even grow this particular plant in your garden as if it is a native plant in your region. Finally, in this portion of the video, in this particular clip, you can actually see a detailed video of the inflorescence of this particular plant, and you can see the colorization and the way the flowers are actually formed together with the seed pods. This is one of the things which is not only unique for this particular plant, but also very much similar to many of different types and species, which has its own familiarity in the botanic features. So this is how I normally identify it. And if you were to look at it, it's very much similar with even with basils, and in some instances some of the mint too have this kind of flowering features. Another unique factor is, like one I mentioned to you, is like even sage. It is also comes from the salvia species, which falls into another category where ornamental flowering plants do come in that kind of a lip kind of a flowering factor. So it's actually a very huge element that is available, and in a way to say that you can actually figure out exactly what are your needs and what would you like to grow, whether medicinal or ornamental plants. I have now come to the end of my video, and I would really appreciate if you can click like, subscribe, and even comment any queries that you might want to have for this particular plant. I will gladly answer you based on my experience and knowledge. Catch you again in my next video, and have a nice and lovely gardening day. Thank you. Bye.